Let's take it here. Sideways climb. Straight to the roof there. Yeah. See the shot grouping is very small. Now, you see 2 shots within the space of 1. You see 1 shot in between the 2 bullets. Yeah? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Hey guys, welcome back to another shitty YouTube video from your boy, Winkly Gaming. Alright, I just wanted to show you something that's been bugged for a long time now. It's been nearly 6 years in the making and they still haven't fixed this stupid bug. Fire your rifle like this. What you can see is that while the first few shots are all okay, the next few shots start growing exponentially in distance from each other, which makes it incredibly hard to recoil control in the squad, right? So that's what happens when you try to recoil control it, even with the highest sense possible. Now the biggest problem is that your gun appears to sway from side to side if you try to fire for too long and try to compensate. So I'm just gonna change my setting real quick here. So I've got it currently on 1.78, but if I change this to like say what 2.7, right? Well, 2. Try to compensate. See how it has like a huge sideways swing? And the last shot's like going to the absolute sky here. Like, look at that. Alright. I'll compensate for every shot. Like my mouse actually ended up off my mouse pad there. I'm not even joking. Yeah, if I had a mouse cam, I'd put that in probably as well. Okay, so actually, you know what? That's not a bad idea. I'll record this as well. So here's my mouse, right? Alright, here's the start of the thread. Yeah, I've covered nearly 3/4 of my mouse pad just in that. And I didn't even fully compensate the last few shots, right? So that makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, come on, that shouldn't be happening. Now, if I full compensate there, like you can see that the gun tilted 45 degrees at one point, even though my my recoil compensation was basically and look how fast that rises. Look how fast that rises at the end. Look at these bullet holes compared to like the start. So I'll compensate it, and then I won't compensate it, and you'll see what I mean. And see how it loves to go sideways as well? Alright. I'm going to take the aim point as the bottom of this exposed rebar here. That's literally how far it is between each bullet hole, yeah? And now I'm just gonna not compensate for it. Over here. And you tell me if that's exponential recoil or not. Like, come on, that looks like complete bullshit. I can't compensate that humanly on the space of a Razer extra large mouse pad. Then you wouldn't be able to on your shitty wooden desk or your Razer extra small mouse pad, or any mouse pad for that matter. Or any mouse for that matter, unless you have, say, what, mouse acceleration turned on. Like, you seriously suggesting I do this in squad? So that's the problem that I was trying to address in the last video, but I didn't really have too much of an idea what was exactly wrong with it. And now I've kind of figured it out, because the gun gets progressively harder to control while you're shooting it. I just moved off my mouse pad there for the last 2 shots. You can see how far it is between. Let me stand in the same place. And look how much the grouping is, even at point blank. Look at that, look at that. That's huge, night and day difference. You have 4 shots in the space of 2. What? Who made the recoil in this game? And even worse is if you hip fire, if you hip fire the gun, it climbs into the sky. And I'm not joking, it actually does climb into the sky. Now, you've seen it just then before, and if I try to not compensate, I'm just shooting at a backward angle. Just like that. I'm nearly off my mouse pad again. And look at that grouping. It's disgusting. It's terrible. I've come from CS, I've come from Rainbow, I've come from Red Orchestra, Rising Storm 2, where they actually have AKs implemented. I think they're way, way better done than this shitty game does it. Like, come on. I love Squad for its mechanics and its building, but when they've removed basically the building viability through the use of 155 strikes on a 15-minute cooldown on invasion layers as well, it takes a lot of the fun out of the game. So now it leaves us with this shitty gunplay. You can't really call this gunplay because the guns don't play. Take something even worse, like the AMD 65. Uncompensated, yeah? Look at that. That's a huge difference, yeah? And then stand in the same place. Try to compensate it. Yeah. Looks alright, right? But what if I release this? Look at that. 3 shots between 2 shots. Well, no! No! Who made this game? There's no limit to the recoil. Like in CS, right? It sprays like this. Sprays like this. Oh. It sprays like this. And then it just goes across like that. So it has a vertical limit to the recoil. But what Squad has done is that they've made the recoil exponentially increasing without a cap to it. Like, sure, the exponentially increasing works for like the first 3 or 4 shots, but after that, it should be near linear. And look, you can hear that there's also a ghost shot mechanic, where if you shoot on full auto and try to tap, 3 rounds go off where 1 bullet lands. It sometimes even adds the extra impulse of recoil to the gun when you haven't shot. And now if you switch it to semi, yeah, climbs to there, right? If you tap in fast succession, what it does is it also adds, I think, I can't really say definitely, but it feels, yeah, it feels like you're adding the recoil. Whereas if you, say, rearmed and then did that from semi, you'd have barely any issue with it. Now do it from full auto. You see it adds some of the recoil to in the next round, sometimes, not all the time, it ghosts the recoil and the sound of extra shots going off sometimes. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know how you would screw this up in the code unless you try to, like, instead of having it based off the bullet firing out of the barrel, you have it kind of based off when you left click, and then when the sound and the bullet don't actually sync up. Like if the server tick is too low or if your FPS is too low, I'd say it probably happens. Now, I'm running on nearly 100 to 140 FPS on squad right now, even with this widescreen setup. And I can still say for sure that this does not get affected by FPS, as I was theorizing earlier. Maybe it gets worse in the 30, 40, 50, 60 FPS range, but at 120 it is still very much there and very, very noticeable. Now the same bug occurs on the submachine guns, like say the Scorpion. Yeah, see that? That's exponentially rising recoil. And now if I compensate it, you see the difference in height. It's a bit less because this is a very recoilless gun. And the Canadians don't even have any recoil on their main firearm. It should, I think, it's safe to say that the Canadians actually have better recoil modeling because their guns don't fly into the stratosphere when you try to aim. But, yeah, it suffers to play anything else rather than Canadian because everyone suffers from this disgustingly bad recoil. Like, even the Raiders PPSH. Alright, let's take this for example, yeah? We fire it. And now, we reload. Notice how my gun's turning to its side a lot. Yeah, you see how that turns to the side when I try to compensate it as well? I don't know what causes that. I really don't. I need to reload that actually. Shit. And do that again. So, you can't really count the 71 rounds on this thing. That's uncompensated. And that's compensated. You see, there's a difference of around 1.5 shots. Yeah. In the grouping. It's probably illustrated better if I find a proper building to do it. Yeah, you can feel it on every gun. I especially felt it first on the PPSH. I just thought recoil was kind of badly modeled in this game before, but not this terribly modded. Alright, let's take it here. Sideways climb. Straight to the roof there. Yeah. See the shot grouping is very small. Now, you see 2 shots within the space of 1. You see 1 shot in between the 2 bullets. Yeah? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. You can see that, in fact, yes, there is some element of exponentially increasing recoil as the gun fires. That's all I can describe it as. Like, all you veterans being like, oh, I am smarter than you. Oh, I've got 6,000 hours in the game. This thing doesn't exist. I'm telling you right now that I've just proven with definitive evidence that it does in fact exist. Yeah, I'm not shit-talking your 5,000-6,000 hours, yeah? I appreciate good hours in a game. I have 2,000 hours on CS myself. But you're gonna take your own experience of just tap firing, bursting like 2-3 rounds at a time. Of course, you're never gonna notice it. It is very pronounced in the higher recoil guns, like the AKM and the what was it, AMD 65. But if you take the RPK, for example, compensate and let that go. That's how much recoil there is, right? You see how it's slower on the bottom, and there's way more on the top there. If I don't compensate, look at the difference. it's not that it's a circle, right? It's not that it's like a circular arc going up into the sky and back down like that. So while this is a flat surface, I'm shooting up kind of like in a sphere, and then of course you'd have the hypotenuse here being longer and longer, so the shock grouping will be wider and wider apart. It's that and the exponential recoil. So Offworld either needs to address this fast or tell us the reason why they've chosen to implement such an obtuse way of recoil control in this game, or at least, look, this is not realistic. If you had a realistic gun game, you'd be looking at something a bit less drastic than Tarkov. So you'd say you'd fire off your first few rounds, right? It'd be going kind of straight up, yeah. Maybe sideways if you're on an SMG, but it'd usually be going kind of straight up, yeah, and then it stops a little bit, and then you can probably pull it back down, because by then the recoil's mostly gone. Because it's either settled into your shoulder, yeah, and I know this as a fact, your gun does settle in your shoulder as you shoot. It does make it a lot easier to shoot. After a while, I've shot a rifle for nearly 6 years actually, bolt action as it was, but it does settle into you the more you shoot it. And okay, look, if you fire even a stockless gun, your body starts to brace it more, so you get a little bit of control back. So you'd start to either leave it here, so you have a bit of exponential recoil here, and then you'd stop, and then you can pull it down manually, because it's settled in your shoulder. It's not going to rise any more than that. It's not 360 off your shoulder and land on the ground behind you. Yeah, it's going to rise. It's going to stop a bit, maybe at 45 degrees, and then the shooter can pull back down and stay on target for the rest of the magazine. Yeah, maybe you can do something like Rainbow Six's recoil, which is basically similar to that. So you have a bit of recoil, and at the top it stops, so you can pull down and then pull back up a tiny bit, and then that's really all you need. You don't need exponential recoil, quotation mark from some guys on Reddit. They're saying, oh, this might be intentional because they want you to semi-fire. But no, if I try to semi-fire, you can hear that there's sometimes 3 rounds going off instead of 1, even though there's only 1 bullet hole in there. So this is clearly bugged, and it's been bugged for nearly 6 years. Well, 5 years now. Because, yeah, Squad's been released in 2015, December, if I remember correctly. I think I was actually one of the first guys on it. Yeah, I remember when they added MRAPs and when they added Humvees before that. And when we used to just walk around on foot and play Operation First Light every game because it was the best map. After that they removed it and they never added it back, so that's a bit of a pity because everyone loves the map. Okay. I even remember when I first got my 40 kills as a sniper on that, just hiding in a bush. Yeah, you can see quite plainly what I'm saying here. Like, you can't do something like this. You can't really spray. Your mouse is going to end up off the table after a while. Yeah, the RPK is realistically one of the best 7.62 guns because it has a longer barrel, a heavier barrel, and therefore has a lot less recoil than your standard AK and your standard AKM. I think the lowest recoil gun on the insurgent side would be the PM63 because it has actually got a front grip here. Yeah, you can see how in CQC you can hit quite a few shots on target, no problem. This is also the reason why I like to play squad leader a lot more than I like playing other classes. Because with squad leader, at least you can hit your shots. And this is also the reason why I'm always so thrown off, like in the last video, when I'm trying to hit an auto burst at 100 meters. Like, I shouldn't have to pull down before the first shot even goes off to actually compensate for it. I don't even know if that's a bug or not, but I'm feeling that I need to pull down kind of while the first shot is firing to actually stay on target. Because then after that, I just mentally and physically can't stay on target after that. If I don't like pull down for the first shot, I mean, right? Let's see what else have we got. SKS, PKM. PKM's pretty bad recoil as well. Yeah, don't take the MS and don't take the AMD 65. These guns are terrible bad. Not even a single hit on that front burst. These guns have high recoil in real life, but they do settle after a while. I think Rising Storm 2 does a great job of that. Like, why have full auto if literally no one is able to use it, and literally no one can learn to use it because it's just exponentially rising recoil? And that really screws it, because when you try to burst fire as well, what happens is you also get the bug. So you burst firing 1 to 3, 1 to 3, 1 to 3. The recoil starts increasing while you're bursting as well. It stacks on. I don't know how, but there is a cooldown for it. Eventually it does reset. I think after the gun settles back to where it is, it starts to reset. Kind of like a 1 second cooldown nearly, for it to fully reset to position. So in a real firefight, when you're walking around and they're over here, and you're trying to full auto them, and your gun's climbing all over the place, you're on like, what, realistically 50 to 60 FPS on your shitty computer, because we're just standard plebeians here. We can't afford a 2070 or a 2080 to play this game. Like, sure, even your 1060 nowadays can run 60 FPS, but at 60 FPS, I'm running nearly double, yeah? And even I still can't compensate for that shot. It's very, very hard to use full auto in this game. Nearly impossible, right? The Americans have a burst shot, they hit you 3 times at the chest, you're dead, yeah? You're lying on the ground, bleeding out, yeah? You shoot them once, oh no, they're not dead. You need to shoot them again, but look. You fire once, it shoots 3 times, and then you fire again. You need to wait nearly half a second for the gun to settle back to its original position, while you're having to pull down, while on, I don't know, like 200 ping, because you're playing on the 24/7 American invasion server, and while you're only getting 60 FPS, while you're walking around and your gun's swaying like while the breathing sway is in effect, like look at that. You can see that. You press shift, it's gone, but if you don't, it just it's just walking around the place, right? While you have the sway, and while you're prone, it's even worse. So you try to do that, yeah, it's not working. You can't kill them. Meanwhile, in the time it takes for you to land the second shot, and this is markedly worse with AMD 65. I've actually tried it. We've went up against the Brits before as the medics with the AMD 65s. Like, these things have immense recoil. That's why I took an example of it last time. You see, you shoot, and the sight blocks your target. So you range it to 400 meters. And then you try to shoot, but there's no posts in the way. You can't really see it. You have to kind of eyeball where the T meets between the iron sights and the guards of the iron sight. So at the time it takes you to settle your gun back into shooting position, 0.5 seconds, the Americans have already shot 2 3-round bursts at you, maximizing the chance that you're going to get hit by 3 of them. And then by the time you actually fire your last shot, they've already shot 9 rounds at you, and you're probably lying on the ground, dead, wondering why this game is such shitty recoil and gunplay. Like, look, I don't care if it's realistic or not. As a game, you're not trying to be Arma 3, you're trying to be squad. You're looking to be an intermediary between the battlefield, just linear, slow vertical recoil, and armor, where the guns, I don't even know how the guns handle an armor, but it'd probably be a little bit realistic, right? But no. Listen, I would be more inclined to say it'd be a better idea to combine the recoil mechanics of Red Orchestra 2, or maybe Rising Storm 2. Rising Storm 2 is a really great game. They have the gunplay just completely done right. Yeah, the game doesn't lag, the guns handle amazingly, even the PPSH with its high recoil is still usable at around 100 meters. Yeah, it doesn't just spray to the moon, it doesn't have to come down and up and up and down and up and down as you fight to control the exponential recoil. It just stays where it is, because kind of the stock bumps up into your shoulder, and then it stays up there, and then you can arc your forward hand down a bit, and you can start hitting rounds on target pretty often. Fully automatic with a high fire rate, your shots really won't just fly all over the place like they illustrate in squad. At least not at 100 meters. Yeah. That's when most of the fights come in. It's 50 to 150 meters. Maybe around 200 meters on more open maps, but mostly people have iron sights on those. And imagine having no iron sights, yeah, having basically all 7.62 AKs, having the inability to control your recoil, having only 600 rounds per minute to counter the American one, which has nearly 800 or 900, yeah, and not having a burst fire mode, and having to deal with recoil, and having to deal with ping, and low frame rate, because this game is still not very optimized. I mean, they did optimize it in the patches before Beta 19, and then they made it worse, I think, in this patch, just a little bit. Not too much, that it's noticeable. Yeah, look. How is your medic gonna do anything with this gun? How is anyone gonna do anything with any other guns in this game, apart from the Canadians? All the guns, every one of them, even the SKS, if you spam fire this, well, it's harder to illustrate, because they only have 10 round clips, yeah? Even the SKS is exponentially rising in recoil, if I spam fire it. I'll compensate for the first 9 rounds. Look at that. That shot rise is real. If I don't compensate, let me do it again. I accidentally compensated on that one. Yeah, you can see that round at the top there is compensated. Yeah. See how that distance between these 2 rounds is greater, or is less than these 2 rounds? Because I've compensated here and not here. Yeah. I felt it a lot on the SKS even, because a lot of the time you're trying to spam fire to get rounds on target, but this thing doesn't really do too much damage, yeah? It has a 2-shot kill, just like every 7.62 gun, and it only has a 10-round magazine. You can see there, evidently, there's a lot of muzzle climb, coupled with the fact that you can't control the recoil. Problem with this is that it's not fully automatic. Alright, let's grab an AK and do the same thing. Set to semi. You can see where the bullet holes are really far apart at the top there, where they should be around that height, right? Yeah. So it exists both in semi and full auto, and they really, really, really need to fix this if they want anyone to come and play this game from CS, from Insurgency, from, I don't know, any other game, Red Orchestra even. Because the gunplay in those games are clean, but the gunplay in Squad is completely dirty. It just doesn't work. Anyway, I said probably way too much information just for a short video, but I hope they address this. And P.S. if any of those off-worldly boys are on, please, please buff your emplacements, buff your sandbags, buff your oil barrels, buff everything that's constructed. Because as of right now, you can dump 155 howitzer nukes onto the point, destroy every fortification, on every strike nearly. Yeah, if you land 2 lucky hits with a 155 shell, your fortifications are gone. Yeah, you land a 1 splash and it's already half health. Sandbags just disappear outright. All barrels at least get half health. Yeah, but if you land 2 of them in the space of 15 minutes, they don't even have time to recover their base. The entire base just gets wiped off the map. Because that's how much cooldown there is for artillery right now. Look, we have this many vehicles as well. We have warriors. They need armor nerfs. Their front plates are impregnable by RPGs. Yeah, even the 30mm armor piercing from the Russians, the thing that fires at 500 rounds a minute or more, they can't, apparently, penetrate the front armor of a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. I don't even think the Americans have that much armor on the thing. Even in real life, I think they just added like the up armored variants for balance, because the Russian 30 used to be really overpowered, but now they've realized it's shit, but they haven't done anything about it. Because look, the Russians, they have 2 different vehicles to fulfill the same, well, to fulfill 2 different roles, right? While the Americans and the Brits, they have 1 vehicle to fulfill the same role. Same 2 roles, I mean. So, you have the Americans and the Brits, they have tows. They have tows on their Bradleys and their Warriors. The Russians have a BMP and the BTR, and they're never really always on the same layer. Sometimes they're on different layers, sometimes you only have the BMP, sometimes you only have the BTR. And sometimes you have the spandrel, sometimes you don't even have the spandrel, and spandrel is usually only for militia. You have this shitfest of Bradleys just constantly destroying you, even though you should theoretically. Keep in mind, their rounds, the armor penetrating rounds, are 25mm, while the Russian 30mm round should do theoretically more damage, right? Just say by caliber alone. And there's no way they'd have like a meter thick armor in the front, because look, 9 out of 10 times those rounds are gonna pen each other respectively. They're just gonna overmatch nearly. I'd even say. And one more thing, this piece of shit here, the ZU-23, needs to have something better than a fucking fragmentation tracer. This needs to have HE, this needs to have, what, AP, so it can actually penetrate vehicles, yeah? Vehicles that can be penetrated by 23s, like the Warrior, like the Bradley, like the Russian BTRs. Because right now, this thing can't pen anything, not even a helicopter. Like, you need a nearly double Magdump a helicopter before this patch. And I'm not too sure about what happened in A19, but people are saying that the helicopters are a lot squishier compared to these machine guns. But this thing does nothing. It gets hit 2 times by a 30mm, the top flies off. It's dead. Yeah, it explodes even, because apparently you can ammo rack this. But despite that, look how thick the armor is on that. That's nearly a centimeter or 2 thick, right? Yeah? And the guy sitting behind this is also sitting behind a centimeter or 2 of armor. But I don't even think this thing blocks rifle rounds. Dushka does not block rifle rounds. The shielded Dushka, especially. I've tested before with all my friends and squaddies. They don't block any rifle rounds. Yeah? They can block pistol, but they can't block rifle. Pretty sure this one does block rifle though. because usually if it doesn't block it, it penetrates and you can see the bullet hole on the other side. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed my huge critique on this shit show that is Squad in its current meta and its current state. And I hope they fix it, because I've seen the bugs around for literally 5 years and counting, and they have not made any steps to address it. Not at all. They've just kept on adding guns. Guns are fine, but they've kept on adding vehicles as well. They've outclassed insurgents by nearly infinity, right? Before, the Americans used to outclass them on foot, and maybe a vehicle or two with a Humvee or a striker, and that was it, right? That was it. It wasn't too bad. No one really cared that much. It's just 50 cows rushing bases and then killing all the Hajis with RPGs in the open and in the buildings. And now it's been, oh, let me fire some 30 mils into your building and your entire base is destroyed. Let me fire some HE into everything and just blow up your sandbags in like 3 shots. Blow up your guns in 2 shots. All of your guns in 2 shots, yeah. Your SPG-9 that you can't turn around more than 30 degrees. Yeah, that blows up in 2 shots. And the tank rolls in and boom, your hab is destroyed halfway already. And then boom, another shot, your hab's literally gone. What do you do? What do you freaking do? It just doesn't work. The game in its current state is extremely hard to play, because the fun of cheesing the game in invasion mode, where we used to super fob for fun, is basically gone. We need to basically play it as it was quote unquote intended. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, they've screwed with the game a little bit too much. They've added too many vehicles. They don't have enough anti-vehicle measures. Like, insurgents only get 1 to 2 RPGs each year, maybe around 2 rounds. Tanks need nearly 10 rounds to kill, and that's only from the rear and the very far sides as well. You need to be nearly tangential, perpendicular to it, I mean, and the hats need to hit them like nearly 3-4 times as well. 4 times, that is, if it doesn't deflect off the glacis plates of anything. The turret of the Challenger is literally invincible, because I've shot it with an SPG-9 15 times at different angles and different parts of it. At least the front of the turret, that is. Me and my friends were sitting a server, and we hit him that many times with SPG-9s. And it survived, amazingly. No damage, nothing at all. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and please share this with your friends, as this is extremely critical for the future of Squad. I'd like to see more blueberries, more players coming in, but they need to be people who actually want to play a milsim properly, yeah, not just shit around and blow up my sandbag towers when I try to make an observation tower for artillery strikes. And yeah, just let them know that the recoil in this game is broken, so they can bitch about it to Offworld, and Offworld will be like, alright, let's change recoil, which hopefully will be for the better. Alright, so drop a like, or I'll drop a 155 strike on your home location. Don't blame me, and I'll see you on the next one. I need what else do I have here? Oh, heavy mortars!
Mortars
Get
are
your
coming.
Ass down, boy!
Indirect.
Holy! No! No! The hood's still up! Stay on the gun! Stay on the gun! Keep preparing the guns, boys! Ah!